So hi there, Emma, and welcome to this conversation with me today. It's lovely to have you join me, Emma.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to talk to you today.
Fantastic. So Emma O'Connor is a wonderful author. She works more specifically with parents and children who are anxious, and she's come on board as one of our delivery partners here as part of helping us with our first Reinvention convention for women in Edinburgh, and I'm delighted to have her share her own story of reinvention and share some tips that might help you as well in whatever journey stage that you are at in life, and generally looking for happiness. And she'll talk a little bit more about her book, Everyday Happy, which is absolutely fantastic. It's a wonderful journal. So I'm going to just hand over to Emma just by asking her a couple of questions about her own experience as being a perennial woman. So this is a really new term, by the way. It's a fresh term out there. And each time I ask some women about their experience of how they see themselves as being a perennial woman, it is quite different. So Emma, what was your particular understanding or view of being a perennial woman? Do you see yourself as being a perennial woman?
Well, I actually love the term, and I hadn't, I have to be really honest and say I had to look up the term when you brought it up to me. So I'd never heard it before. But in discovering a little bit about it, I love it. It's more empowering and actually than the word middle age or something it makes, because most of the time I feel 12, if I'm really honest. I rarely ever feel my age. And I was speaking to a dear friend who's the same age as me, and she had written in a Facebook post referring to herself as middle-aged in the last few days, believe it or not. And I said, we're not middle-aged, we're perennial women. And she said, I feel 12 most of the time anyway. And I said, so do I feel 12 most of the time too. And I think it encompasses any age, really, and sort of hints at the fact that we don't feel our age usually. We usually feel different to where we are. So most of the time I feel 12, and everything that comes with that, the lack of confidence that comes with that, and the fact that I'm constantly going through changes and in my life and wanting to reinvent all the time in my life. So I think perennial is a much more empowering word for us to use.
Fantastic.
For any stage in life, really, not just middle age. I like it for any stage.
Absolutely. And that's exactly how I see what a perennial woman is, and someone who's ready to bloom, someone who knows she's got something more to give. And it's just wonderful how you can bring in the creative element of who we are and just continuing to evolve as we get older. And I love the fact that you say, I kind of feel 12. Absolutely. Why not? And it's interesting how, when I met you initially and we were talking about your journal and how it was geared more specifically around children and anxiety. We'll talk a little bit more about that as well, but how that has expanded a little bit more now, so that you are reaching out to perennial women as well who've also seen the benefits from your wonderful journal. So before we dive into that, it'd be interesting to share with those who are listening to this conversation what sparked your interest in coming on board as one of our delivery partners as part of the Reinvention Convention.
I think the thing that made me most excited about it was you guys were all new faces to me. So I hadn't heard any of your stories before, and I like that. I think I like having new connections and finding new experiences. So that was the thing that really got me excited. So it was a mutual friend that sort of introduced us, and she told me about your website, and I thought that your name is familiar, so I thought there was somebody that I already knew. And then when I saw it, I saw that you were new. I never met you, and the other ladies were new, and I just thought, that's amazing. So, and just the potential that it has to help people, I think. And I'm all about helping people through empowering them. So not being a crutch for people, but showing them how to help themselves. And that's my entire message. So I feel that we're very aligned in our message that we're delivering. for sure.
Fantastic. And that's something quite empowering, isn't it? The fact that some of us have never met each other before or even familiar with a name on social media, even, you know, as much as social media is out there. And yet our stories are all connected in one way or another. And I think this is one of the special things about this whole community and being part of the Reinvention Convention, but also as a collective of women coming together, like-minded women coming together and realizing, hold on a minute, you know, just listening to Emma's story reminds me of exactly who I am or where I want to be. Just, you know, offers that wonderful opportunity for connection. So how important do you think being part of a community of women is important to you, Emma, and as part of you continuing to reinvent and just being your authentic self and growing as you continue to evolve as a perennial woman?
Being a part of a community of women is such an important thing. So when I first came to Edinburgh was in 2008, and we didn't know anybody, we had no friends, I didn't have a job, and so my eldest son started nursery that sort of just after the first Christmas that we spent here, and it was through that nursery one woman put her face in front of me and said, "Hello, would you like to come around for a cup of tea?" And because I was late starting in the nursery, I had this idea that everybody else all knew each other and I was the newcomer. I was wrong, but that didn't matter because that attitude meant that I made a massive effort to get to know everybody and pull everyone together into a community. And so that group of women I'm going out with on Friday night.
Wonderful.
And that's 10 years on. So having that initial group of women as my community has been a godsend for me, an absolute saviour, because even though we've all had some really big ups and downs through our lives, we all always come back together. And so that, I think, and we've all got really different backgrounds and beliefs, and I think that coming together as a group of women wanting to reinvent and having something in common, I think that adds a new power to it. So the Reinvention Convention is going to give us a sense of community that that lifts each other up, because we already lift each other up. I think women naturally do that. So bringing it together with a common purpose, I think, is going to be absolutely amazing. I'm very excited about it.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so am I. I can't wait, in all honesty. It's been a dream almost coming true. And it's just wonderful to, you know, just get the sense of this excitement from a number of other women, but also this opportunity to share ideas. And you know, you've got this shared resource of brains as well. Knowledge that we're willing to share with each other and not withholding that information is incredibly powerful as well. So let's move on to talk a little bit about your inspiration behind writing Everyday Happy. What was it that sparked off your particular interest in putting this wonderful journal together?
It was an accident. It was one of those things that came out of life experience, and one day I was sitting in my living room having spent hours researching how to help my own son, and I just thought these words, I can remember the moment really, really clearly. It's like somebody should put all this in one book in one place. And then it was just the light bulb, like, I am that somebody. So, and to backtrack from there, when my eldest son was 9, he got debilitating anxiety. Seemingly, it felt like it was completely out of the blue. In hindsight, it was a build-up, but we didn't notice at the time. So I decided to sort of go against the trend of what some of the professionals were telling me, which was that he would suffer anxiety forever and just have to learn how to cope with it. And I just decided that we wouldn't accept that as our reality. So started researching positive psychology and happiness, and that's where we got our hope from, and that's our journey started from there. And the book is based on that basic philosophy of taking responsibility, and happiness being the combination of all our small habits, all the tiny decisions that we make every day. So do you decide to get up in the morning and make your bed? Do you decide to, go for a walk? Do you decide to brush your teeth? It's the tiny decisions rather than the big ones. So it's all sort of based in there. But yeah, the inspiration was my boy, definitely.
It's interesting.
And then there was as we were going through it and talking about it, because I did talk to everyone about it, I met more families, more people. And so he was the beginning, he was the motivation, but then they became the drivers for me to complete the book, because I thought more people need this. So that's what, so yeah, it was two. He was the inspiration, and then they were the motivation to keep going and to finish.
That's amazing, isn't it? Because almost as if it was an organic process, then, isn't it? You trusted actually your natural maternal instincts, if I put it across in that way. I think we, as women, have a natural way of just being able to tap into that kind of internal resource. We just know it feels right or it doesn't feel right, and you just have this natural inclination to provide that level of care and support, which you did for your son, but you knew at the time there wasn't a resource out there that really met your specific requirements. And you're able to then tap into your own level of intuition and expertise to put this wonderful book together. But it's interesting also how that has evolved. As you were saying, those on the receiving end became really your main drivers to push this idea further forward. And this is, again, one of the wonderful things that happen, isn't it? When we kick off an idea and you're just, inspired by other people that, connect with you and connect with what it is that you have to offer them. And then they begin to drive you forward. That's absolutely amazing. And so if you were to turn the clock back to the very beginning of having, put this wonderful book together, is there anything you now know that you would have done differently?
There's one thing. When I first started putting it together, I thought mindfulness was a fad. So because it was just being talked about in mainstream, and so I thought very purposefully left it out of the book.
Wow.
And now I've realised, it's probably 5 years since I made the decision, maybe, and the book has been out for 3.5 years now. So I think a re-edition will include some extra things. It will definitely include mindfulness, because I think mindfulness as a practice has stood the test of time and gone past being a fad, and I think it needs to be included. And I include it in my courses that I run for children. So the book has led to running a little 8-week course in happiness for children, and that's, like you say, an organic process. But because of, so as I've learned more, I've realised that maybe I did make some decisions to leave things out that maybe I shouldn't have. But, we make these decisions.
Yeah, it's all part of the journey, isn't it? We're always growing and developing and listening to people as well as listening to yourself. And so that whatever it is that you put out there is meeting the needs of those who really need your help and support. And that's exactly what your book has done. It's interesting that what you have highlighted in your book is not only being relevant to your son and parents who are experiencing issues of anxiety, but if we were to just take anxiety and worry and fear, and I can associate very much with that through my own health recovery in my journey as well, and anxiety, worry, fear, procrastination. These are all specific elements that even women entrepreneurs suffer from, professional women leaders, people in general, just wanting to push ahead in life, but they have a block of some form or kind that just prevents them from, really going past that particular sort of stage, and really just blooming into that person or that personality type that really is authentic to them, and providing that through some service that can create that wonderful impact and change that in a person's life, whether that be a child, whether that be someone who you support in your own business from a commercial point of view as well. So it's interesting how you have, realized that, it's not just something that is pertinent to children anymore, but extended now to a community of people in business. So, I'm sure that the women who are coming along to this event will want to hear more about that. And certainly one thing that I picked up from your book and just the questions and the reflections that you have incorporated into the book are incredibly powerful. I like the fact that it's structured but non-structured, if I can put it in that kind of way. Maybe you can put that across in a slightly better way than me. Do you want to just explain a little bit more about that, what that is? Because that was a real eye-opener for me in terms of the fact that some journals that I'd come across, and they are very, very packed with information. You deliberately left a good space, but also gave me some, hints and some tips and some motivational messages that would, help inspire me in my journey, but not feel pressured either to have to write something. So, please tell us a bit more about that approach to writing Everyday Happy.
Okay, so there was a few thought processes behind it. I very purposefully made it quite universal in the look of it so that it wouldn't feel overwhelming for anyone. And it would, my friend has a teenage boy, and she said if he had it, he would want it to disappear into his book pile. So it's a quiet and understated book. It doesn't shout because it, if somebody is feeling anxious, they might not want people to know. Yeah. So that was one of the motivations behind the design of the book, was to keep it universal, to keep it non-gender. And actually, like we said, I did write it for 9-year-olds. So it is very simple. But because it's simple, it's easy to digest. So I also had read a lot of things about helping your anxious child, and lots of books that, like you say, so much information. And I was in an anxious state too, because I was trying to help my child, and I was like, I cannot digest this information. There was too much. And so nobody really has time to read a lot these days, really, in general, especially if you're trying to juggle a life and young people and you're trying to help somebody through a difficult time. You need quick fire 3-minute reads. And so that is why the articles, I call them articles, because they're one page chapters.
Right.
And really no more than a 3-minute read each, or a list. So that was the thought process behind that. Nobody has time to read, really, so let's make it fast reads, an easy read. And a lady that I met recently was flicking through it, and she said that, so about the structured, unstructured part, she said, it's a bit like a happiness pick and mix. And so, yes, that is pretty much what it is. It is a list of things to choose from, and the list is the same for every day of the 365 days, but you don't have to do it all. You pick 3 or 4 things each day, which means you can swap it around, and you can add your own things. You don't have to do what it says in there. It's just a prompt to remind you to do something for yourself that helps you feel happier. And the last thing about the structured, unstructured is that it starts on day 1 and it ends on day 365, but there's not a single date, so you can start any time in the year.
Fantastic.
And if you miss a day, you haven't missed a date. So if you miss a week, you haven't missed a week of dates. So you can actually, if you miss day 200, then in a week's time you can do day 200. You don't have to miss 7 days in there. So once you've done 365 days of happiness, it might take you 365 days, but it might take you 5 years. It doesn't really matter. A friend of mine, her son did 100 days, and 100 days is enough for him. So it is, like you say, it's got a broad appeal in that you can make it work for you. So,
wonderful.
Yeah.
And that fits the description, doesn't it, of being a perennial woman and timeless and ageless. I love that. Yeah. And the simplicity of it is so important. You're quite right. Our lives are incredibly busy, and what we don't want is to be overwhelmed with more and more information. We are already bombarded with so much information that's just hitting us from all different directions, social media, just the conversations that we have with people on a day-to-day basis, the demands that we have with children or family and friends, etc., etc. It can be incredibly tiring, exhausting, not to say the least. So the fact that you become the author really of how you decide to utilize this book is absolutely perfect. Wonderful. So what would you say to any woman now that is listening to this conversation, perhaps on the fence, thinking about coming along to the convention, and maybe to a woman who is at a stage in life where she is anxious about something, she's fearful about something and not sure how to move her life forward, although she might be thinking about, reinventing her life, but, she's just being held back. What would you say to these two women here?
I'll say do it. Don't be afraid. But if you are afraid, just take a moment, step back from it and come back to your center. So what do you want? What purpose? Because we get, as women and mothers and grandmothers and, whatever role we're playing in life, employees, we get all sort of so much incoming expectation to be this person here and to be that person there and to be that person there. So just for a moment, sort of block all that out, put your earphones in, put on some nice music and come back to, what do I really want? And if you do want to reinvent, if there is something that feels unfulfilled in your life, then just, have a go. What have you got to lose? You spend a day with some amazing people and you're going to come out of it feeling better about yourself in some way, whether it's finding a new purpose or motivation to follow your dream or whatever. So, yeah, I think go for it. It's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. Yeah, just embrace it. And you're not going to be doing it on your own either. You've got that wonderful support, that community who believe in your venture or idea and really want you to move forward in life as well. Your story is not unique, although your aspiration for doing a certain thing might be unique, but in terms of what you are experiencing emotionally is not unique. There are many, many other women who are in a similar boat to yourself, and just coming along and sharing is an incredible part of that. Can I use the word therapy, or just helping you get unstuck, basically, and be mindful, being intentional about where you are now and where you want to go, and perhaps using this book as well to help guide you in that right direction as well, and living the dream, living the life that you really, really want to live. Fantastic. So how do we get a hand on that wonderful book, Everyday Happy, Emma?
So it is for sale on Amazon. You just have to do a little search, Everyday Happy, under the book section in Amazon. It's not available in bookstores. Amazon is the only place to get it. I will be bringing some stock along to the event as well, so you'll be able to purchase it directly from me at the event. I hope that's okay. And
really, absolutely.
That was my plan. I'm also happy to sign any copies for anyone who brings their book along on the day. So
fantastic. Yeah. And a bird tells me as well, you also might have something quite special as well for women who do decide to come along on the day and purchase that copy from you as well. But we'll not tell them what that is just right now. We'll keep that a secret. Okay, fantastic. Emma, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today and just sharing your insights, your stories as well, from, just empowering other women to not be afraid to just go and do it. If there's something that you really want to reinvent, you don't have to do it on your own. There's a proven strategy, there's a proven resource there that can help you in that journey. So thanks very much for joining us here today, Emma. See you soon.
Thanks, Bev. Thank you. Bye.
You're very welcome. Take care. Bye-bye.